My name is Donovan Brown. I am a cloud developer advocate. I run the DevOps portion of our organization. Before I joined Microsoft, I was a process consultant. I flew all over the world installing and implementing Team Foundation Server. I happen to also be a certified Scrum Master, so I would stay on staff and help those companies come kicking and screaming out of the waterfall world into the Agile world. And when I came to Microsoft, I basically started doing DevOps here at Microsoft. Okay? Some fun facts about myself. I'm a competitive driver. Some of you know who've seen me before. I was the 11th best air hockey player in the world. I am extremely, extremely competitive. And the only reason that I put that stuff up there is because you can use my competitive nature to your advantage. If you want Microsoft to do something, I'm at Donovan Brown on Twitter. You can tweet at me, and I will add whoever I need to that thread to get your situation resolved. I am very, very active on Twitter. It's the best way to get a hold of me, okay? So if you need me, get a hold of me. I am very, very happy to be here today with my co-presenter. I was given the privilege and the opportunity to build a team at Microsoft. And he was one of the top people on my list, and I still can't believe that he joined. So please help me welcome Damian Brady.
Thanks. I'll let you do the quicker. Yeah, so I'm Damian Brady. I am Damo Visa on Twitter, web, anything. Even Damo Visa at Microsoft.com. I set that up a little while ago,
Nice.
which is pretty cool. So before I started working at Microsoft, which was about 2.5 months ago, I worked for a company called Octopus Deploy. Does anybody know Octopus?
I'm sure.
Yeah,
very popular.
Yep. So I had a lot to do with the integration with VSTS, which is kind of how I learned the integration story there. And you're going to see some of that stuff today. Before that, I was in consulting as well. So I used to go to companies, help them with their dev process, which turned into DevOps as the buzzword, and help them through that process to get their stuff into production really quickly. So a couple of other little interesting things about me. You've probably noticed I speak a bit weird. I'm Australian. I'm living in Canada at the moment, so sorry. I think I'm obligated to say that now. I play beach volleyball, surf, love traveling. These things happen until I injure myself. So right now, I'm on painkillers because I've got back pain. So if you see me limping around, that would be why.
Yeah, if any demos fail, it's because of the drugs.
Yeah, it's the... That's right. This demo failed because my back's sore. Sorry.
Exactly. Well, as I said earlier, we are members of a team. We've been dubbed, this is just a nickname, the League of Extraordinary Cloud Developer Advocates. It's a joke, okay? So that's like the #1 thing that you need to remember about that name. Steve Muraski, who happens to be the only member who's not at Ignite, actually came up with that name in a Twitter conversation. If you want to get our team's attention, you only need to use that hashtag. We actually have a Microsoft Teams rooms that watches that hashtag. You know, anyone uses it, it alerts all of us. And we will jump on that thread and see what we can do to help you, right? So if you want to get to all 4 of us at once, the easiest way to do that. Again, remember, we are not elitist. The name is a freaking joke. Someone got all bent out of shape when they saw that on Twitter one day, and I'm like, okay, I got to let everyone know it's a freaking joke. But I'm very proud. You guys saw Abel earlier in the general session. He also has another session later this week. Damien also has another session. I believe it's tomorrow?
Tomorrow morning, 20-minute session.
Perfect, which is always oversold already. And you will eventually get to meet Stephen Muraski. We'll be bringing him with us at some of the future stuff. We are here to talk about DevOps. It's what I talked about earlier today in the keynote. And if you ask me what it means, I'm going to say this, that it's the union of people, process, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to our end users. I can defend every word of that. It took me 30 days to write it, because I did soul searching over my 20 years as a developer to see how could I define DevOps in one sentence. This is just how I frame the conversation. The most important word is value. We are not trying to deliver features. We are not trying to get to the bottom of our burn down. We are trying to deliver value to our customers. And value is not also always changing your application. I always use the example of an e-commerce site. If Cyber Monday's coming, and I can't sustain enough simultaneous users, do I have to change my application? No. My IT pros can jump in, scale up or scale out my infrastructure, and deliver value to our customers. That is our goal. And you want to do this continuously. And to do that, you have to automate. So it's really the union of these 3 things coming together that gives us what we need. The hardest part is the people. Because you guys are sitting here, but the majority of your organization is not sitting here. You're going to leave here all jazzed up, all excited, seeing all the cool demos that Damian's going to do for us. You're going to get back to work and hit a roadblock. because they don't get it, right? So what I'm going to try to do in some other future sessions is talk about how we can convince those people they need to do it. You don't have to threaten to fire them. That works, though, right? But there's other ways we can motivate them to do the right thing. So this is our goal. So whenever we say DevOps, this is exactly what we mean. I just put this up there so that we can level set. Why is it important? Your competition is already doing this. That's why this is important. We live in an industry, I think mobile is the best example. It's probably the most fierce battleground that we're working in applications. For every app on your phone, there's at least half a dozen that are dying to do the exact same thing for you. So if you screw up, I'm going to uninstall you, give you a 1-star rating, and I'll never be back again. You have to innovate faster, you have to be more reliable, and all that requires automation and a lot of DevOps best practices. Because if you don't do it and your competition does, your customers become their customers. The debate on DevOps is over. You either implement it or you lose. It literally is that simple. So that's why it's important. What are you trying to do with it? You have to increase your velocity. We have to move much faster than we have before. We all want everything instantly. We want it on demand. We want it yesterday. So you have to move faster. But historically, when we moved faster, we incurred more risk, right? But you can't fail fast in a world like today where if you fail, I will uninstall you. You have to be able to move faster and also have quality. How do you do that? You automate. And automation gets rid of that last one, which is human error. You can track down probably every single failure of your system to some human being screwing up. Never, ever, ever send a human being to do a machine's job. That is why we have machines. They will happily do the same thing a million times and never complain, they never bitch, they never moan. They just do it perfectly every time. So automate as much as you possibly can to reduce that human error. And when you do this, magical stuff starts to happen. You can move faster at higher quality. And that's what we do in the VSTS team. We went from shipping every 3 years to shipping every 3 weeks by embracing DevOps and doing all the things, the people, the process, and the products coming together to allow us to do that. And our quality is very, very high. That dashboard I showed you in the keynote today, I failed to mention it. That is an actual dashboard from one of the teams that builds VSTS. Someone on Twitter noticed that one of them had LSI at the title of the widget. That is tracking every live site incident we have. And it's shown to everyone on our team so that we can focus on delivering value, right? So this stuff can happen. And the first thing that we did is reduce as much human error as we possibly could. Our offering comes in 2 flavors. One you install yourself, and one that we host for you. There are some companies out there that are simply scared of the cloud, right? We're not ready, they don't have enough regulations, my boss won't let me do that. Once you wake up, we have an offering for you called VSTS. That is everything that you know and love about TFS with none of the maintenance. You never upgrade it, you never back it up, you never have to do anything but just use it. It has infinite scale, and as your team grows, you don't have to then go buy bigger servers and then port your TFS to another server. How many of you guys are running TFS on-prem? How many of you guys have actually tested your restores from your backups? Just one, right? Did it work? You tested it, but did it work? Good, right? Because the first time I did it, it failed like hell, right? I lost a decade worth of code because my backups didn't freaking work. And you think that I'd get it right the second time. 3 years later, hard drive fails. Backups did not work. I'd never, ever, ever deal with that anymore because I am on VSTS. It's backed up, ultimate scale. What is offered? It is literally everything that you need to turn an idea into a working piece of software. I want to be very clear here. You do not have to use all of this. How many of you guys remember TFS 2005? Yeah. You probably weren't raising your hand when I said if you're using TFS anymore, right? Because if you use 2005, you probably hate our guts right now, right? It was a really, really painful piece of software to use, and you had to use all of it to get any value out of it. That is not the way that we treat TFS today. It's not how we treat VSTS today. We're going to show you some integrations with some other products and other tools because that's the way that the world lives today. They want to be able to choose the best of breed and build their own pipeline. As a program manager at Microsoft, what my goal is if you want a holistic system, I want you to choose us. If you want a best-of-breed system, guess what? You should still choose us. We should be able to compete on build and release and work item tracking and source control, the whole 9 yards, and that's exactly how our team is built today. We have a team dedicated to build that is going out there trying to crush every other build system on the planet. We have a team dedicated to work item tracking who is trying to crush every other work item tracking system on the planet. But one thing that they have that everyone else doesn't have is a mandate that they integrate with everything else that we already build. If you are building a DevOps pipeline today and you're not using Microsoft, you are using more than one vendor. I don't even have to ask you who you're using, because no one else offers all of this stuff. For you to do this, you have to be stitching together at least 2 or 3 vendors. And when you do that, you're paying something I like to call an integration tax. Because those vendors don't care if this stuff integrates or not. They'll give you a REST API, they'll give you some service hooks, but it's your responsibility to stitch that stuff together. There's someone at your organization who is responsible for making sure that your pipeline actually works. That's time better spent adding value to what you do as your core business. You should not be maintaining your tool chain. So don't pay that integration tax. Let us do that for you. And if you believe that any of this stuff isn't the best of breed, I'm at Donovan Brown on Twitter. I'm that serious. You can go and look at my feed right now. It's me answering questions and actually adding people from the product group to go answer questions I don't know the answers to. I'm that serious about it. So enough talk from me. It's time for us to start having some fun. Damien is going to start showing you how this stuff actually works. And we're going to do it for 3 different languages and target several different platforms. Because I'm certain that if you guys how many of you guys are all .NET developers? Keep your hand raised if you work in a company that also does other languages. I'm pretty sure everyone's hand stayed up. And that's the point of this talk. You don't have to use VSTS for your .NET developers and Atlassian for your Java developers and something else for your Node developers. What we're going to prove to you right now is that you could use these tools for the entire company, no matter what language. I said it today, and I was a little angry when I did. It is about time we let the world know that if you write software, here at Microsoft, we add value for any language and any platform. And Damien's going to prove it. Are you hot?
Am I hot? I don't know. I think I'm hot.
We need this guy's mic to be hot. Or is mine just like really, really loud?
Nope, no battery.
Batteries are dead?
Batteries are gone.
All right, here, I'm just going to stand real close to
All
you. No, you take my pack for a second while we switch over.
All right.
Here, grab mine real quick. I'll go swap over while you do your demo.
This is quality presentationing right here. This is fantastic. All right. So most people put their hand up for the .NET developers, right? So you spend a lot of time in Visual Studio. That's where I used to spend all my time. So I'm going to start there with Visual Studio, right? So I've done a file new project. I've done an ASP.NET MVC full framework app. I thought we'd start, where a lot of people are working day to day. I've already done the file new project because I figured you didn't want to watch me, restore NuGet packages and stuff, but that's all I've done. I haven't done anything else to it. I did 2 things. I clicked the checkbox that said create a new Git repository, and all that really does is does a git init with a git ignore file that ignores all of the Visual Studio stuff. And I also added a test project. So you can see we've got a test project here as well. So I have a local Git repository, but I want to put this up to VSTS. Right? I have an account in VSTS, but we don't have a team project yet. So to do this, Team Explorer, sync, publish Git repo. So I've clicked, 3 times now? I'm just going to wait for it to grab my repositories and my accounts and so on from VSTS. I'm going to choose my account. It's just going to be called demo hello ignite, publish repository. Now all this is doing is it's taking my Git repo, setting an upstream branch to VSTS, but it's also creating a new team project up there. And it only takes a few seconds to do this. And there we go, pushing branch. And we're done. So this is now a new team project in VSTS. So if you have your code locally, do a git init, get a git ignore file for VSTS, and this is all you need to do to put it up. And I haven't left Visual Studio yet, except to show you what's here. All right. So that's the first bit, source control. That's really easy. Nobody has to worry about that. So next we want to push it up to Azure, right? So to do that, everyone knows what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to right-click and go to publish, right? Everyone? No. Friends don't let friends right-click publish, all right? So don't do this, right? But I understand a lot of .NET devs, myself included, do like the right-click. So thankfully, there's a better way to do it. Right-click on the solution, configure continuous delivery. So I'll do that again. Configure continuous delivery. So I'm going to fire this off because it takes a couple of minutes, and then I'm going to talk to you about what that is and where to get it. So I'm just going to use all the defaults there. So it's going to do 3 things for me. It's going to go to Azure, and it's going to create a new app service for my ASP.NET application. Now, this is MVC full framework, but it would also work with ASP.NET Core, even Core 2 with the new Razor pages and things like that. It knows how to work with that. So it's going to create that Azure app service, and it's also going to create a continuous integration build in VSTS and a continuous delivery release definition. So every single time I commit now to my master branch and push that up to the server, it's going to trigger a build, and if that build succeeds, it will create a release and then deploy that to my new Azure app service with a few clicks just from Visual Studio. So to get this tool, it's not actually in the box. It's just an extension for Visual Studio. So the one you're looking for is continuous delivery tools for Visual Studio. Add that to Visual Studio, and this is what happens. All right, so that's going away. It's doing this work. I'm going to jump the gun a little bit while it's creating all this stuff and show you what it's been doing. So let's go and have a look at the builds. We should have a build. In fact, there's a build in progress right now. It's decided to run that build because it was the first commit that I did. I've pushed it up to the server. There's new code. So let's have a look at what that build is. Let's have a look at what's in that definition. Now, it's pretty basic. We've got a NuGet restore. We're building the solution. We're running our tests. Remember, we had that test project. So it already knows how to run the tests that I created with that file new project. And then it's compiling the artifact and pushing it up. Now, why is this better than your right-click publish to Azure? Well, this is going to integrate not just my code with what else is on my machine, but it's going to integrate my code with the rest of the team's code. It's going to run all the tests. It's going to make sure that I've passed all of the gates that I care about before creating a single artifact that I can continually deploy to different environments. So we're doing it properly, right? We're not just pushing everything from one person's machine up to Azure. So if I wanted to extend this, if I wanted to add my own tasks to this, that's really easy to do as well. There's a ton of these tasks out of the box in Visual Studio, team services. So for example, I might want to do something simple like tag my builds for the master branch with like a release candidate build. Or if it's a develop branch, I might want to tag them with dev or something like that. There's a ton of these things, but if there's something that you can't do, that there is no step for, you can easily write PowerShell. Or if you're on Linux, you could write bash, if I can spell it. You can write shell scripts or command lines. But even better, have a look at the marketplace. So this marketplace is for Visual Studio and Visual Studio Team Services extensions. And there are, every single time I click this link, by the way, there's a different number here. There's now 347 build and release specific extensions for Visual Studio. So for example, the people who saw Octopus Deploy, who put their hands up with Octopus Deploy, I wrote that extension. So that adds build tasks that I can add to my build if that's part of what I want to use. I might want to do, I might even have an existing investment in something like Cake. So if I'm building my project already using Cake builds, then I can add that to VSTS and again get those builds happening inside VSTS. Now, why would I do that? If I've already got an investment in Cake, why would I do that? Well, let's have a look at the summary, and I can show you. This is the summary. The build has succeeded now. It's a summary of what we've got. We can see everything that's happened, and none of this is hidden from you, by the way. You can see the logs of every single thing that happened, whether it's a hosted build agent running this or your own one. So nothing's hidden from you. But we also get our test results. So we can see visually how we're going with our tests. We can see what failed, what succeeded. If we checked a checkbox in that build definition, we'd also get code coverage. But here's the cool thing. We've got a link straight to our release. So we've got this end-to-end connection between the work that we did and the release itself. So if we have a look in this release, so the release has succeeded now as well. We can even see the commits that were associated with this release. Now, because I just did a file new project, pushed it up, I've really only got one commit there. But as you go ahead, you'll start seeing these commits. and any work items that you've linked as well. So just finally, let's have a look at this release definition. At the moment, we've got artifacts from our build, so the files that we've got together to actually release our Visual Studio, the ASP.NET MVC application. We've got one phase with one task, which is just deploying the app service. It's really basic. But the next thing we might want to do, once we've started becoming a bit more confident with our dev build, is create a production release, right? So we've got our dev release, we want a production one. So we clone that, change the name to prod, and then we can change this task, maybe change it to a different Azure App Service, or maybe put it in a different slot, for example. So it's as simple as that to add a new environment for prod. One thing that you probably don't want to do, though, is deploy automatically straight to prod once you get your dev build, your dev release working. So we can do post-deployment approvals, and we can do pre-deployment approvals. So I'm going to go into the pre-deployment ones, scroll down to pre-deployment approvers, and set Donovan as the guy who needs to approve our deployment to production. So once this dev deployment works and goes out to dev and everything's OK, we've run through all our tasks, we're confident it's good to go, Donovan will get a notification, and he can approve this release to production. So you get this full end-to-end, everything from a commit all the way through to deploying to production with the security of somebody checking and making sure that it's OK to go. Now, there's one more thing that I want to show you, and this keeps coming up. I always get this question asked. I'm deploying to Azure right now, right? And the work that's being done with these steps is running from one agent. At the moment, it's a hosted agent, but it could be a single agent on my machine. But what if I can't put everything in Azure right now? What if I have a web farm with 10 web servers and they're all living on-prem? People are in that situation, right? You have on-prem servers you need to deploy stuff to, right? So there's a preview feature called deployment groups, which you can use today. And what that lets you do is add a new phase, for example, to your deployment process, your release process. And any tasks in this phase will run on each of the machines in this deployment group. So if I configure a deployment group, for example, my dev web servers, I can add new machines to that deployment group, and those agents will live on those machines, talk to VSTS, and run any tasks that are in that phase. So if I have 100 web servers, the tasks will get run on those 100 machines. To set it up, if you're in Windows, here's a PowerShell script. It'll download the agent, it'll configure it, connect it to VSTS. But if you're running .NET Core, maybe you want to run it on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, for example. So there's a script to do that. So you can connect all of these different agents. They'll run on those machines, and then maybe if you're running Windows, you might want to do an IIS deployment, for example. So 100 machines, that'll run 100 times. So this is really cool. This lets you do that until you're ready to go to Azure, if that's where you're going to end up. So I'm just going to summarize what we've done. All the way from Visual Studio, right? Right-click, configure continuous deployment. We set up a continuous deployment build, a release definition that will continuously deploy to Azure. And by the way, I should show you the site, because it should be up and running now.
Yeah, we're going to have just like thunderous applause once this thing actually loads for you. But yeah, that is actually a good sign, because it should be jitting right now for your Hello World application. There we go. Everyone clap. There we got it there.
All right.
You can, actually. The question is, can you have it pre-jit your application before you deploy? You can actually do that using deployment slots. There's several different options for that. So when you're doing a multi-phase swap for your deployment, you can actually set in your web app config which page you'd like it to warm up for you, and it'll already do that. Another thing that I would recommend people do is after you've deployed your application using release management, that is an extremely naive and simple deployment. I would run integration tests, I would run load tests. That thing would have been jitted 50 times over before a human being ever tried to hit it, because of all the automation I would have run against that website before anyone ever got to it. So to answer your question, absolutely. You can jit it before anyone ever hits it. Deployment slots are an amazing, amazing feature.
Is your mic on?
Is my mic on now? Let me see if I can go. I guess I just talk loud enough, because is anyone having trouble hearing Donovan Brown? I don't think so. It came on a second ago, but now it's not on. They gave me fresh batteries, but they won't be on.
you want this one back?
No, I don't. Who's having trouble hearing me right now? Oh, a couple people? All right. Come give me some batteries, please. There is gonna. You have a handheld? Maybe that'll work. All right. I'll just hold this one for a second and I'll put it on. All right, so to answer the original question was, can we pre-JIT your ASP.NET apps? The answer is yes. There's several different ways. The technology is actually built inside of ASP.NET. You can actually put it in your web.config. You can also use deployment slots, which I'm a huge fan of. Deployment slots inside of App Service allow you to do what we call a zero downtime deployment. Historically, if you were to go and deploy into IIS, first thing that you would do is put the offline file up. Right? The offline file makes sure that no one else has any new requests, so you can go and replace all the files underneath. Well, while you're doing that, no one can use your actual application. That's a bad thing. So using deployment slots literally makes a mirror of your app behind the IP address that everyone can see. So they're constantly hitting the public website. You could take 20 minutes if it took to copy all your files to that deployment slot. When it's there, it's actually addressable. You could go to the deployment slot and actually view it, do smoke tests, make sure everything looks good, pre-JIT all the pages that I want. And then once you know it's good, you literally flip a switch and the IP swap. Your customers never see any downtime. It's brilliant. So I'm a shameless plug. Have any of you guys played with YoTeam yet? Have you guys played with that? A couple people? Yeah, YoTeam basically stands up these entire pipelines for you, and I'm adding slot support. So probably by the end of the week, you'll be able to just type a couple commands and have that entire pipeline stood up with the slots and everything to JIT. All right, this is hands down the most important slide of this talk. This is what I was yelling about in the keynote. If you've ever seen me speak before, I say any language, any platform over and over again. The last few tweets that I've said have basically said, eventually you will believe me when I say this, because we can do every language on the planet. That build system, when Damien was showing you the PowerShell and the bash and the command line, the reason that that's so important is because anything that you can do from a command line, you can do from our build and our release system. And I'm going to repeat that. Anything that you can do from a command line, you can do from our build and our release system on any platform. We have it for Macs, we have it for Linux, and we have it for Windows. In the cloud right now, we basically have Linux machines running our build agent automatically, and we have Windows machines. So Linux and Windows, ready to rock and roll. If you need to build on a Mac, you can download that same agent he talked about and install it on your own Mac, or maybe a Mac in Cloud or a Mac Stadium, and then use our builds against that Mac. So you can build your iOS and things like that. Any platform is within range now. In any language, we don't care what the languages are. Our source control doesn't care. It's just a file that we're going to version. It could be Java, it could be PHP. We simply do not care. All this value is agnostic when it comes to the language, and that is so important for you to take back to your organization, who thinks that every group has to have their own set of tools. That's a fallacy, okay? This is single-handedly the most important slide. Please remember that there is nothing out of reach with the tools that we build here from Microsoft. We have a new team, the CDAs that we work on, literally have parts of them that only work on Go, parts that only work on PHP, parts that only work on Python, parts that only work on a different language to prove that we can do that with our tool set and we can host it for you in Azure. If you have a language out there that you don't think that we can handle, just let us know so that we can get working on it for you, okay? So what we're going to do to prove that we can do this stuff is we showed you the happy path inside Visual Studio. I've been a Visual Studio developer my entire career. That's great for me. But there's a lot of people in our organizations who don't use Visual Studio. How can we make them believers too? And that's what this next demo is about. We're going to do Java, right? Which, love it or hate it, I hate it. People are using it, right? And we need to make sure that they can be successful with it as well. And that's what Damon's about to show us. You're going to be better off with this.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to clip this on too because I need two hands to type. It gives you both fingers for typing. It's great. So yeah, we saw, I'm going to swap this over again. So we saw ASP.NET Windows, right? So I want to show you, Donovan said that it doesn't really matter. We don't care what language you're using. But there are teams in Microsoft who do care if you're not using .NET languages. So that's a big part of this as well. Not only do we want to make it possible for you to use other languages, other tool sets, other operating systems, we want to actually make it a beautiful experience to do this. So we've seen Windows, we've seen Visual Studio. You don't want your Java developers to have to use tools they're not familiar with. So I'm going to swap over to Ubuntu on this machine, right? And I'm going to use IntelliJ. So the demos I'm going to show you are in IntelliJ and Ubuntu. You could easily be using Eclipse on Red Hat Enterprise Linux, or you could use Windows if you want. There's tons of different tools. It doesn't really matter, but there's some really good extensions for IntelliJ and Eclipse. So I'm going to show you the IntelliJ stuff. So we've got here, it's a Java Spring app, right? I'm a little bit like Donovan. I haven't used Java since I was at university, which is at least several years ago. I'm not going to age myself. So this is a Java Spring app, right? And I'm using IntelliJ for my work. So there's an extension for IntelliJ, Visual Studio Team Services extension. And it interacts natively with IntelliJ so that, for example, checkout from version control now has Git and TFVC. So it's not trying to insert brand new stuff into IntelliJ. It's going to integrate with the existing stuff that's there. If you have an existing project, you can push that into a Team Services Git repository as well. So this extension lets you do that, but it goes even further, and you have in the version control tab, which is part of IntelliJ, your work items from Visual Studio Team Services. So I'm using a query here, which is my incomplete work. It's basically just any tasks that are assigned to me that I haven't finished yet. And I've got one here, which is to replace that banner just with a link to Azure. These kind of Hello World applications are good for me, especially in Java, because if I have to do any real coding, it's probably not going to go well. But I'm in an enterprise organization, right? I'm writing Java. We have rules. I can't just commit all my code straight to master. So in our organization, I have to create a branch, and I have to submit a pull request. And there's a whole lot of quality gates that I have to go through to get this working. Now, I'm not saying you have to do this when you're developing Java. It's just a good example of some of the power that's in Visual Studio Team Services as well. So I'm going to start doing this work. So I need to create a branch first. So right from in IntelliJ, I can right-click, create a branch. Zoom out. I'm going to use that standard kind of policy of D.A. Brady. So this is my name, and then Azure banner, for example. So let's check out that new branch as soon as I create it. So let's create the branch, and we can see we get an alert right down here saying that the work item itself was associated with that branch that I've just created. So inside VSTS, we're already creating these links. All right, so I'm on this branch. I'm going to do this work. I've got to replace that banner. Thankfully, I've kind of thought ahead while I was developing this, and I can just kill all of that and uncomment the next bit. This is the great way to write code, by the way, is just uncommenting stuff. Pro tip, by the way, put thread.sleep all the way through your code base, and then when somebody complains about performance, you just comment one of them out. And then, yeah. All right, so I've done that work. That does not deserve a clap, everyone. All right. So I've done all that work. That's in this branch. I'm going to commit this branch. So let's just, I'm going to use little shortcuts. Commit the branch. And what I can do here, it's already got my commit message from last time. I don't understand why IntelliJ does that. It keeps the same commit message you used last time. Surely you're doing different work now, but anyway. So I want to link, the branch itself is already linked to the work item, but if I wanted to add other work items, like connect them as well, I could do that directly from inside IntelliJ too. So you get that integration. I'm going to, oh no, not the reset. I'm going to do that one. The replace banner with link to Azure. Now, just so you know, this is just the commit message, and that #117 is all that you need to put in the commit message. So if you're using the command line for your Git stuff, which I tend to do, as long as you have #117 in your commit message, it'll link those up in VSTS as well, which is really handy. All right, let's commit and push. You'll notice that I was a real developer and I didn't even compile that to make sure it worked. Certainly didn't run any tests. Oh, it was rejected by remote. That's not good.
That's what you get for not testing.
That's what I get for not testing. All right, let's go Azure banner. Check that out. Oh, I'm going to have to do this work again. Hopefully I get paid twice. All right, let's do this. Save. Commit. Commit and push. So by the way, it rejected that because I set a policy saying that I'm not allowed to commit straight to master. don't even know what's going to happen here. All right, let me do this again. Abort. Yes, I'm going to go back to my master branch. I think what I did, by the way, just for anybody else who's doing this, is that I used my, okay, I'm going to skip this altogether. So, this is going well.
We were just talking about that before we started.
Yeah.
Cleaning up your demos is paramount.
Yes, so I should have scripted that. So by the way, I used the same branch as a previous one. So let's do this. I'm going to accept my merge. This is going to be my last attempt at this, otherwise I'm just going to show you previous ones.
If this doesn't work, we're just going to go to another session.
Resolve, merge, apply.
See, I know all these products work. I think he does this just to build tension
Yeah.
and excitement so we clap every time one of his demos is done.
All right, what have we got?
While he's figuring that out, one of the key points that we want to take away from this is when we say any language, any platform, you don't have to abandon the IDE you normally use. There's been a lot of work put into the extension for IntelliJ. There's been a lot of work put into the extension for Eclipse. If you're inside of Visual Studio Team Services on the clone section of your repo, you'll see an entire list of IDEs that we integrate with. These are the most popular, so we demo these, but PyCharms and a whole list of different IDEs show up. And most of the people that I knew, that use Git, use it like a man from the command line anyway, so none of this stuff is even important, right? Because you would have just gone down there and typed your little life away and rebased and all, whatever it takes, right? I usually just delete the whole repo, reclone it, and then do my work again, because it's faster. But you can do whatever you do naturally, which is the point here. So you get it back where you needed it?
I think so. So I read, by the way, you know how I said I did Java in university? This is really familiar to me, stuff not working. So
that's why
it's just like university. Right, so I've got my branch, right? Next thing I need to do is create a pull request, right? Because that's a policy. That's why my commit got rejected before, because I was on master. So to do this, I hover over, create new pull request. So this is all the details here. I can add more items. You can see that I'm linked here to the 117, that work item that I linked it to before. So let's create this pull request. So because I'm working in an enterprise, I'm writing Java, there's a few things that have to succeed before this pull request can get accepted. So we've got these branch policies. There's 3 of them. Number 1 is that the work items, there must be a linked work item. I can't just commit code and say that was to do with something. You need to be able to point at a work item. Any comments that anybody adds to this pull request as well, they need to be resolved. So if somebody came in and said, you need to learn this demo better, for example, I have to mark that as resolved before that pull request can be created. So we can see the comments that people have made when they did that code review haven't been resolved, so they need to be revisited before this will get merged. So let's resolve that. That one's done. But the last one is most important. It's the fact that a build must succeed on this PR. I can't commit broken code, right? This build has to work. So once all of these have been completed, I can mark this as complete. Now, if I wanted to, if there's a bit of extra work that has to happen here, before this button changed to complete, it was auto-complete or auto-merge, which means that you can mark it to say, once all of these policies have been met, then you can just complete it, merge it, and then close that branch. But let's complete that now. We will complete the linked work item, so mark that as done, and also delete this this branch. Let's do that. It's doing the merge, creating a pull request. So that's cool, right? We've had this pull request, it's been accepted, it's merged back into master. Now, I've already set up a continuous integration build and a continuous deployment release, right? So in our builds, we can see that there should be a build in progress for our continuous integration build. And it's different than my PR build. Now, why would it be different? Well, for one thing, I'm using Docker here, right? Native, out-of-the-box kind of Docker tasks in my build definition. I'll show you that in a sec. But I'm also doing things like running a whole suite of tests and creating an image and pushing that Docker image up to Azure Container Registry. I probably don't need to do all of that stuff with my PR build, so I can skip some of those tests. I might even work the other way around and run more tests with my PR build and then less for my continuous integration build if I wanted to. So this build definition here, by the way, the Docker continuous integration one, does a few things that are very Java specific, like Maven. So by the way, Maven, this task is not an extension. This is out of the box. So VSTS gives you out of the box support for Maven. And this is general availability now, so it's not even in preview anymore. Not only is it building the file, building my project, sorry, it's running JUnit tests and publishing those results back up to VSTS. So you saw before with our .NET application, we saw our test results. We even have code coverage with Jacoco. So I can see code coverage on my Java application. And even better, and if you have Java teams in your organization, just mention that there is native SonarQube support as well. Java devs love SonarQube. It gives incredible insight into like technical debt and the bugs that they can't see and all sorts of amazing stuff there. So once you get this summary, you'll see that's succeeded now. So we can see in our build summary, we get our test results, again, our code coverage, 100% is pretty good, by the way, and our SonarQube analysis as well. So it's passed our quality gates. In fact, we can drill into this even further. Yep. And log in and even see like the deep SonarQube analysis of our Java project, right? So this is all like out of the box for VSTS. The tasks as well, we can see that our commits here have been linked. Our work items, 117 has been linked. And once again, our release definition, which is in progress right now, it has those links as well. Now this is really cool, especially for an enterprise that has a lot of work items and you're doing all this kind of work. You can see all of the work items that were related to this release, but we all know that not every release gets to production. Maybe a few get to QA, and then there's 10 releases in between production and the previous one. Just compare it to a previous release, like, let's do 4. And you can see all of the work items that have occurred between that previous release and this one. So you can compare that with production, the last version of production, and give that report to your end users, which is really cool. All right, I'm going to show you one more thing as well, and this is going to be great for Java developers. We mentioned that VSTS is the only product that has, or Microsoft's the only company that has an end-to-end DevOps, like everything from source control, requirements gathering, all the way through to monitoring in production, stuff like that. But your Java devs might already have investments in other tools. So maybe their build is already happening with Jenkins, right? So if it is, you can grab your artifact straight from Jenkins. Or you can grab it from package management. So VSTS has a package management tool which natively supports Maven packages. So they can push those Maven packages up. In fact, if you're using something like TeamCity, once again, the marketplace comes to our rescue. And you can see that TeamCity has an extension which will add artifacts for TeamCity. So if your Java devs are using TeamCity, you can do that as well, which is really powerful. So end-to-end with VSTS natively for Java, including all of the cool tools, test results and things like that. But if you have existing investments in other products, you can use them natively as well. That's really cool.
Awesome.
I think, yeah.
One thing that I wanted to mention about, how many of you guys are using SonarQube? Are you using it for .NET as well? All right, great. So there's an extension in the marketplace that actually adds that same support for SonarQube for your .NET code. I've actually run it against a Node project that I was working on for an NPM package. So we can actually run it for more than just Java. And if you're not familiar with SonarQube, it's free. I would really highly recommend that you go and look at it. It's some pretty cool tech that I use in a lot of my projects as well. And what's really neat is that it showed that the gates had passed. The integration with SonarQube and VSTS is so good that if those gates had failed all the way up in SonarQube, it can reach back down and fail your build for you. Right? So it's not this just one-way push of data. It's actually an integration between the two of them such that you can say, I have a gate, and it bit me once. I have a rule inside of my SonarQube that says all new code must be 80% code coverage. It's not punishing you for the decades of legacy that you have that's not at 80%, but it refuses to let you add new code that's not been unit tested. And I was in a rush. I checked in code, and I knew it was going to work, but it failed my build because it said that code has no unit test on it. And I had to go back in, write unit test, and push it again for SonarQube to say, okay, now I'll let your code go through. So it's really neat to see that back and forth that you can have with that stuff. So make sure you look at SonarQube if you haven't looked at it already. So this is really important. I tried to drive this point home this morning. I am really bad at, I'm a 20-year dev. So when I talk about DevOps, I kind of lean a little bit to the dev, right? And we sort of ignore the ops from time to time. And I feel bad about that. And we have a lot of great things to help the IT pro. Because you got to play nice in this world, right? We're not trying to replace a single IT pro with DevOps. What I'm trying to do is give you your job back. How many of you as IT pros deploy software? Right? That was never your job, right? That shouldn't have been why I hired you, right? The reason I hired you was to protect my infrastructure, to figure out my networks, to make sure that my app is performing as best as it can based on the infrastructure. Why do you deploy software? Because when Donovan deployed it, all the lights on the server went out, right? So you're like, get Donovan off the server. So what I have to do, I have to give you the files for you to deploy for me. And that goes just as bad because the document that I wrote to install the software is worse than the software that I wrote, right? So whenever you see me up here preaching the automation, it's not to get rid of you guys as IT pros. It's to give you your original job back so you can focus on the infrastructure, so you can focus on performance, so you can focus on what your original job was. If you're deploying software, you need to be doing this stuff. And what I tried to show with the Azure portal today is you no longer have to wait on a dev to go set up CI. You don't have to wait on a dev to go set up CD. From the Azure portal, we can now allow you the power to go force those best practices upon them. Right now, what do? Someone on their machine builds a zip file, writes a document, and emails it to you. Let them keep sending you the document. You just don't have to read it anymore, right? Because you're going to be able to set up an entire CI/CD pipeline without them even knowing about it. You don't have to get a single person's permission to do the stuff that we're about to show you. If they're already using Visual Studio Team services, their lives do not change one bit if you set up CI for them. It does not change one bit if you give yourself your weekends back. It's your nights and weekends that you're giving up by letting these people email you a freaking zip file that you're supposed to then figure out how to deploy. If you set up this automation, they're just going to see the code deploying. They don't have to know how you did it. Right? That's your little secret, okay? So please, guys, do not go back to work after you see what he's about to show you and go ask permission to do the right thing. It is your job to do this stuff. What you should have to ask permission for is how you do it today. Can I please do it manually? Can I please screw it up every time I deploy it? Can I please manually change a web.config? That's what you should have had to ask to do, and we do it every single day. But when I tell you to go automate stuff, you think you got to go ask permission. That is your job, okay? So what you see happen here in just a second is power that we're giving to every single one of you guys so that you can go home and, like I like to say, rub a little DevOps on it and make this better for you. Remember, it is your nights and your weekends that you're giving up by not doing the stuff that we're about to show you. So this is for all the ops guys. All right, Damon, take it away.
Cool. So
Switch over for me.
Oh yeah. Who didn't see Donovan's demo during the keynote about this?
How dare you?
Those 5 people.
Where were you guys? I was demoing my ass off this morning.
So I'm going to show you how to configure this stuff as an IT pro. But there's a few things I want to show you first. This one is kind of like a bit of a tangent because I just thought it was really cool. So in this scenario, right, I'm a Node developer, which means I'm obviously working on a Mac. So I'm in Mac OS. I am using VS Code. I'm probably in a Starbucks. You know, I'm a Node developer. This is basically just a Node Express app, right? Just a web app. I'm going to just do a little bit of work here, but first, I just want to show you this really cool thing. This code is in VSTS. It's in a Git repository in VSTS. I don't have a continuous integration build. I don't have any of that DevOps pipeline going yet. I don't even have an Azure App Service to deploy this. But there's a really cool extension for VS Code that you can use that lets you talk to Azure right from here. So if I've installed that. If I do the command, which is Command-Shift-P on a Mac, Control-Shift-P on Windows, I can say Azure Web App, create a web app. I'm going to give it a name, demo, ignite, I don't know, hi. I'm I'm really paranoid about using the same names again, as you can
You
tell.
should have done Hi-O2 is what you probably should have done.
Hi-O8, yep. So what that's doing is going away to Azure and creating that Azure App Service. And if we have a look at the output from Azure Tools, we can see it's actually already done. So if I can go to Azure Browse in Portal and then go demo dash, what did I call it? Ignite Hi, there we go. We can go straight to that Azure website from the VS Code, which is really cool because I haven't really touched the mouse there, which is great for Node developers. You don't want to touch the mouse. So we've got this Azure App Service. We haven't actually deployed our application to it yet, though. This is basically just a brand new app service. So we can go there. There's nothing there, really. So the next thing we want to do some work and then deploy those changes. So let's go back to VS Code. We'll kill that guy. And we'll just add a title. So welcome to whatever. Good to see you. This is the level of my coding, by the way. People don't trust me with anything more important. So let's go to the Git side of VS Code. I'm going to add this. I'm going to stage that change. And then there's another extension for VS Code for Visual Studio Team Services people, where you can say, associate work items with this work that I'm doing. So you'll see that I have user story 122 is assigned to me, update the text on the home page. So I can assign that. And once again, it's really just putting that commit message in there. So if I was doing it from the command line, same thing. I just need to put that commit message. So let's commit that code. We'll push it to the server. And now to deploy, traditionally, like Donovan was saying, I'd probably compile this locally, put it in a package, put it in a zip file, attach a Word document, and send it to the IT pro, right, to put that in Azure. Maybe they will FTP it up. Maybe they will copy-paste into the Azure portal, which, by the way, you can do. And no, I'm not going to show you how to do it. That's a terrible thing to do. But you can do that. So now we want to actually deploy this. And the IT pro is sick of getting this Word document that is incorrect, right? They want to set up this CI/CD. So they're totally empowered to do that right from Azure. So there's a continuous delivery section here, which will let us set up continuous delivery for this web application. So let's click Configure. We choose where the code lives. So it's in VSTS. It's in our LOECDA instance, demo hello ignite. Is that what it's called? Nope, my Node app. That was the one. So that's where it is. It's in the master branch. I say OK. And we're going to configure continuous delivery. Now, I'm using a Node app. But you can see it's not just Node that's supported here. It's ASP.NET, ASP.NET Core, PHP, Python. And you'll notice as well that this is a preview, right? Continuous delivery preview. So you can expect this list to grow or become a little bit deeper in terms of what you can do with it. So this is really cool. This is just kind of the starting point. There's going to be more coming with this stuff. I'm using the Gulp task runner in my case. You can also use Grunt. And again, as this develops, you'd expect a few more task runners in there, NPM, something like that, and a bit more control over what happens when you actually run these. By default, the Gulp task runner will run your default task, which if you're a Node developer is probably not exactly what you wanted to do. But again, this build definition and the release definition, these are your build and release definitions. You can change these however you want. So let's just leave it like this. If I really wanted to as well, I could set up load testing. So I could hammer this service before pushing it to the next environment. Or I could deploy to a different slot. So deploy to my staging slot instead of my production slot. I'm going to leave these for the moment. And we're just going to go and configure that continuous delivery. So again, what it's doing is it's going out to VSTS. It's creating a new release definition and a build definition, and hooking up that continuous integration, continuous deployment. So let's, again, jump ahead. It's doing this work. Let's go to my Node app and have a look at the build here. So it's...
Yeah, it'll be there in
it'll
just
be there in a
moment.
minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
While it goes back and does that stuff. So I actually, while you're waiting, go back to your
this guy?
Azure portal.
Yeah.
And then go back to where I can see your subscription ID.
Oh, here.
How are you doing that?
Oh, well. So Donovan was talking about the cloud dev advocates. One of them created this extension. I'm wondering whether I can show all of it. This is our little mascot, by the way. Bit. It's a raccoon, yeah. Which in Canada, by the way, they call them trash pandas. Trash pandas. But there's actually an extension, so you can install this in Chrome. It's really good for demos, and it'll toggle the mask. So it'll remove your email from there, and it'll blur out your subscription ID.
That's awesome.
Pretty cool, huh?
I had no idea what that was. That was very cool.
Yep.
All right, so now your build should be done.
Now my build should be done. We saw that alert. Cool.
Exactly.
Thanks for
Refresh that.
spending the time. So here's our build definition. And once again, a build's in progress. So that change we just made, it should be spinning up. Let's have a look at this definition. And once again, native, out-of-the-box stuff for Node. We're running npm install. We're running our gulp tasks. We're archiving those files, so putting them in a zip folder and then pushing them up to VSTS so we can use them for our release. And again, if you wanted to use something else like, what else could we use here? If we wanted to run our tests and publish those test results, we can publish test results back up to VSTS as long as they're in a format like XUnit, NUnit, JUnit. So if you're using Mocha or Jasmine or something like that for your Node applications, you just need a reporter that pushes them up in those formats, and I know they exist. And they'll get that, you'll get the whole experience the same as we did for Java and for .NET as well. If you're using something like, is it Istanbul?
Yeah, Istanbul will calculate your code coverage for you.
Yeah.
So you can actually report that as well.
So you'll get that same experience if you want to do that. And again, Marketplace, if you're using Yarn or something like that, there are extensions in the Marketplace to do that kind of work. So let's have a look at the release definition. And once again, this is in progress. So let's have a look at what it looks like. And it's going to be pretty simple. It's just an Azure App Service deployment. So one environment, which is incorrectly called production, probably shouldn't be called production. I'm actually going to change that because it annoys me. So that's our dev environment, one phase, one task. So it's deploying an Azure App Service, but it knows it's Node, right? So all of the stuff down here about how to actually run the application is Node specific. So out of the box, the tasks work for Node. So again, it's not just .NET Microsoft developers. It's native support for Node and native support for Java and tons of support for pretty much any language you can think of.
Yeah, and I like the fact, again, well, I think the key point of this demo for me, besides figuring out how to blur out that stuff on Chrome, was the fact that you were able to configure this from the Azure portal. It uses Visual Studio Team Services in the backend, but you don't have to be an expert like I am with VSTS to go set this stuff up. You know this is the right thing to do. I'm not an expert in CI and CD, but I still want to do the right thing. You can literally go through a wizard and have it do the right thing for you. And you can go and extend this however you see fit. If he doesn't want it to be production, he can add dev, he can add additional environments, add more tests to it. We treat all languages the same. I mean, that's really the point of this entire talk, is please don't go back to work and let someone on the Java team talk you out of using this stuff because they don't think it'll work for what they're doing, or the Node team. And don't feel that you have to get anyone's permission, because as an IT pro in the Azure portal, you see that you can actually do the exact same thing. The reason we did the other ones where we show you VSTS, because it's not frightening. It's not scary. Those tasks that we're using to do all this magical stuff, they're all open source. You can go to GitHub right now and see every line of how we wrote every single one of those tasks. The reason that we do that is because, what are you doing? Oh, you're
That was
taking
my
me
start
there?
page. Yeah.
Okay.
I keep forgetting that my start page in Chrome is this.
Some Canadian thing? Oh, gotcha. Good Lord. So yeah, they're open source, and I actually learned how to write my first task by using this repository, because every one of them in there is in here. So don't feel that, oh, it doesn't do what I need, so it just doesn't work. First of all, go write your freaking own. Stop whining, right? We literally teach you how to do this stuff. Go in the marketplace before you do, though, because trust me, guys like me beat you to it. Chances are what you need is already in the marketplace. And if not, it's really, really easy to write your own. If you know PowerShell or you know Node.js, you already know how to extend our build and release system to literally do anything that you want, okay? So we have some resources we want to show you here real quick, and then we want to start taking some questions. Now, good, you wanted to show one more thing?
One more thing. So this is at the Azure portal. I've set up the build and the release, and I get full traceability from Azure into what's happened. So if your customers come and start complaining that the latest build broke something or the latest deployment broke something, you have the link right to that commit. You can give that back to your developers and say, well, the last deployment to production was this particular commit. You need to sort that out.
You'll be able to find out what developer wrote it, what lines of code changed, and exactly what brought your system down. How many of you guys are using infrastructure as code at your organizations? Not enough hands, right? You guys need to be preaching that too. And you can incorporate that inside of this pipeline. If you're using ARM templates, for example, to define the environments upon which you intend to run your application, we have a task that will take that ARM template for you and execute it for you as part of your deployment. And because ARM is idempotent, you can safely run it on an environment that's already stood up, and it'll just verify that everything looks good. If anything has drifted because someone manually went in and changed something or unchecked something, it'll put everything back the way it was supposed to. And we enable that for you too. So this isn't just some do everything from the command line. We're actually putting in place DevOps best practices for you. You can go ahead and switch over to the last slide we want to show you here. There's other sessions obviously going on here at Ignite that are focused on DevOps and continuous integration. There's a lot of podcasts going to be recorded as well, so we definitely encourage you to go and find those things. We're obviously going to hang around here a little bit, but we left plenty of time to ask questions. You can literally pick my brain about anything that you want, and I'm really happy to have Damien on stage with me too. So pretty much any question you're going to ask us, we should be able to field. If not, I will get you an answer. So that's all we had to say for today, but please find your way to a microphone or just yell out a question and I'll help you repeat your question for you. Any questions, guys? You got to have some questions. Go ahead. Yeah, that'd be great if you go to the microphone. Thank you.
So I am traditionally a Jenkins person.
Okay.
Now working at a TFS shop.
Okay.
They have on-prem TFS. Do they, if I want to start moving this direction, so there's VSTS, do they need to move TFS also into the cloud?
You can.
Or?
What you can do, there's a migration tool.
Okay.
That you can literally say, here is my TFS. I would like this to now be VSTS, and we will just suck your entire collection up into the cloud for you.
Awesome.
So
Thank
absolutely.
you.
And we've done some big companies with that thing, so it's definitely ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, so this is all application development. Is there anything out there for database, data warehouse?
Oh, great question. Oh, great question. And I feel bad that none of our demos actually had that stuff in there, but the answer is absolutely yes, right? Your DevOps should include your entire solution, not just the front end, not just your mobile app, but the database, the web services, the whole 9 yards. In the marketplace, and as you can see there, we have a couple options. One option, if you're using SQL Server, which I hope that you are, you have lots of options. One of them is a DAC pack. You can actually create a project inside your solution in Visual Studio that is the schema of every object in your database. What it does when it quote-unquote builds it is it produces something called a DAC pack. A DAC pack is a digital fingerprint of the schema of your database. That DAC pack becomes the artifact of your build. When you go to do your release, that task that Damien just had up will take the DAC pack. You give it a connection string to that's my target database. It will figure out at runtime what alter script do I need to run against your database to bring its schema to where you need it to be. No more developers are writing SQL. I remember when I would make a change to a table and I'd write my little piece of SQL, and then this young lady would make a change and she'd have to write her piece of SQL. We'd have to concatenate all that together, go get it blessed by the DBA, and when he ran it, it still failed. Right? Mm-hmm. That's how we do database DevOps today, but you don't ever have to do that anymore if you use DAC pack. Another option is ReadyRoll, which comes from one of our partners called Redgate, who's an amazing partner for SQL Server. They have an extension that does a migration path versus a state-based task that we do here. The third option is Entity Framework Code-First migrations, right? So if you're using SQL Server, there is no limit to the ways that you can incorporate your database inside of your DevOps pipeline. And as we mentioned today, we have a migrator that will migrate you from Oracle into SQL Server 2017. So if you're using Oracle, there are none of these tools. I mean, Oracle doesn't provide them. We don't provide them. If you want to put your Oracle database into your DevOps pipeline, you're writing the scripts I talked about earlier. But now that we can migrate you out of Oracle into a real database, then you don't have to do that stuff anymore. If any of you guys have actually developed against Oracle, that's why you're laughing. I have too. It was a nightmare. I don't miss it at all. Great question on the database. Thank you so much. And you need to think about your entire solution. It's not an application you're deploying. It's a solution that you're deploying. And we talk about that a lot when we do Visual Studio Team Services, which is tons of services and databases and things like that. There's a show that I do called DevOps Interviews, and I sat down with the engineer who runs our entire pipeline, and we talk about how we do our database for VSTS, because we do database changes and schema changes there too. We talk about how we do our web services, the whole 9 yards. So if you're interested in how we do a big scale deployment, just go to Channel 9 and search for me, and it's the one with Manil. It's been probably the most popular one right now. Question?
So
I think
I'm going to piggyback on your question.
Okay.
Well, how do you do no downtime deployment, including the database pieces and all the other dependencies?
Great question. The show is called DevOps Interviews. We talk literally about that exact thing because it's a much longer answer, but there are ways that you can actually do that. There's 2 ways of actually thinking about your database deployment. Your database change can go first, or your database change can go second. It depends on if you want to support rollback or not. So if you want to, you can deploy your front end that works against your current database schema and your future database schema. If something bad happens, you can easily roll back your front end. You can't roll back a database. Once those changes have been made and records have been committed, there's no going back anymore. So you got to make sure those changes are correct. So what we do is we roll out our front end first, and our front end understands both the front end and the back end. And then what we'll do is we'll start rolling out those changes in real time. So it's an engineering change. It's not just I have this tool that will update my database while my application is actually using it. We actually architect into our application the ability for it to have its database upgraded underneath it while the application is running. And I'm glad you pointed that out, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to go listen to Donovan talk, I'm going to set up a DevOps pipeline, and we're going to be blazing. Well, not necessarily. Even on the VSTS team, we've literally had to re-architect the way that we've actually designed our software to allow us to be able to deploy with 0 downtime. It's not just putting tools in place. You might actually have to re-architect your application.
Do you have any best practices on how to do that, blogs, any guidance?
Oh, we're going to get some of that, right? Because so Manil wants to come back onto the show. Again, that was the most popular show that we've done. And I want to go deeper not only in how we do our database and document that, but also how we do our web services. Because a lot of you guys, say for example, we have 3 web services. I depend on this young lady, she depends on him. Well, when we're going to deploy those out, you'd have to go first, then you would have to go, then I would have to go. There's a dependency now, and it complicates our deployment because there's an order that has to be followed.
Right.
We had to change all of that in team services. I can be upgraded on a dependency of you that hasn't even been upgraded yet. I can be deployed safely because we architected it such that it will go and query you to see what API do you support. And if you don't support the one that I want, I'm going to downgrade to one that I know that you actually have. And then the next time I start a session, I'm going to ask you again, are you at the version that I want? And as soon as you are, I'm going to light up all these new features that weren't there before. But we had to change the way that we actually architected our services to be able to do that stuff. So you sometimes got to go back and rethink about, is this really going to allow us to do a 0 downtime deployment and move at the velocity in which we want to move?
Yeah, that is a tremendous architecture embarkment. But the other question I had is, in order to have the successful pipeline, also you have to consider your secure development lifecycle. So can you plug in your security regression testing into this pipeline and everything else that you need to do as well?
Awesome. So the answer is yes, and there's several different ways that you can actually do that. We have partners like White Source, Black Duck, Aqua Security, Twistlock. These are all vendors who basically make extensions for VSTS that will go back in and do those security scans on several different levels of your software. So you can go back and say, am I using a package that has a vulnerability, just like what happened to Equifax? They were literally using a package that had a known vulnerability in it. And as soon as you identified that, you could go and steal 50% of all of our identities, right? But had they been running something like White Source Bolt during their build, it would have said, you can't release this right now because this has a vulnerability in it. And it even tells you, this is the package you need to upgrade so that you can actually avoid this. And it would fail your build and not let you push code that has a security vulnerability in it just from scanning your dependencies. There's another level where it actually reads your source code and says, have you left yourself open for a SQL attack? Where I can put in SQL into a text box, push submit, and then you accidentally run that SQL against your database, and I drop all your tables, or I steal all the passwords or credit card numbers. That's a vulnerability that you designed into your code that some of our extensions can find as well. If you're doing Docker, you want to actually be able to scan your layers of your Dockers as well. We have Aqua Security for that. So to answer your question, absolutely. DevSecOps is something that has become extremely paramount, and we have people just jumping in to help us make sure that our customers are secure when they're actually incorporating that into your DevOps pipeline. Man, you're full of good questions. Come on.
I am.
Go ahead.
Okay. So the end of your deployment pipeline, aside from deploying to production, you have to regression test and make sure you get a feedback loop. So there's two aspects to this. I mean, your testing has to be successful, but also you have to see what your impact is on your production environment, make sure that you didn't end up breaking anything that the test did not capture. So what are we doing in order to accomplish that feedback loop?
Great. So there's a couple of things. We're really fortunate on the VSTS team because we are our own first customer. What I mean by that is we're a group of developers writing tools for developers. I didn't say this in the keynote, I should have. Visual Studio Team Services is versioned, tracked, planned, built, and deployed using Visual Studio Team Services, right? It's the weirdest thing in the world. Every 3 weeks, it wakes up and deploys itself right while we're using it. And because we see the very first cut of it, we literally do all of our own manual testing by using it for 24 hours as our daily working tool. So that's how we're able to go ahead and make sure that are we deploying it and does it still work? Now what you need to have if you're not your own first customer is an environment that pretty much duplicates production as close as you possibly can. And then you do user acceptance testing. That pipeline that Damien built, it's the approvers that allow you to have that time to pause, allow us to go interrogate it in its current environment, and if and only if we give it the approval, will it then automatically deploy into the next environment for you. So what I would do in a scenario like yours, where you need to have that last bit of user acceptance testing that automation is never going to catch for us, I would then have an environment as close to production as I can, have an approver before production that allows it to sit there until they get the thumbs up from all the UAT testers that we beat it as hard as we can, it's safe to go to deployment, and then we would approve it and it would deploy into production for you. Perfect. Question over here.
So you were talking about approvers.
Yep.
Is there a way to set it so that the approver can't just deploy the code? I mean, directly?
Awesome question. Yeah. So you must have SOX compliance, right? Yeah. No, literally. I'm not joking. That's why we have that, right? You don't want someone to put a worm in, start a release, and then be the guy who approves it. There's a checkbox. I don't know how quickly we can find it, but there's actually a checkbox in release management that says the person who starts the release cannot be the person who approves the release. Right, so to answer your question, absolutely. Right, we won't let that guy go and do whatever he wanted to do, which is probably nefarious to begin with.
Yeah, I don't know where that
Come on, right here. Great questions, guys. Keep them coming.
Hi.
Hi.
I want to ask a question to you both as a consultant and as a DevOps expert. How can you explain to a customer that DevOps is not about tools but about people's engagement? And how can you help him reach that people's engagement?
That's a tough one because every individual is different. I have this conversation all the time. And when I sit down with the customer, the first thing I ask them is what hurts? And literally make them focus and tell me, why is your pipeline failing? It's never the tools, right? It's always a process problem or it's a people problem not willing to follow the process. So if you really make them take a hard look and I ask them a very simple question, what hurts? It's the first thing I say, no matter what customer I'm sitting in front of. Like, oh, we want to talk about this and that and that. I'm like, no. What hurts? Just that simple. And they'll start to say, well, this is tough. Well, why is it? And it always boils down to some person who just refuses to play nice, who just puts up every roadblock they possibly can. And then they almost put their heads down in shame because they knew it when they came in there, right? It's almost like they just needed me to help them find that individual or that group of people in their organization who's just putting the kibosh on any automation and any progress and any innovation in their company. And then when I finally make them see that hard truth that it's not the tools. The tools are in place. The tools will do what you let them do. But those people aren't even pushing the buttons. They'll never approve it. They don't trust that infrastructure. They don't trust that pipeline. And once you make them see that, they'll basically go either decide to fix it or they'll live with what they have, right? But ask them a very simple question. What hurts? And when they really think about it, it's always a people problem. Say again?
Or a process problem.
It could potentially be a process problem. Usually the process is the easy part. It's the people not following it, right? I haven't met many processes that won't work if you follow them. It's just that people don't follow them. Give me 1 second. I got to get this student here.
We use quite extensively.
Awesome.
One of the things I find a little bit lacking, though, is like more advanced notification systems.
Okay.
From like releases and builds. And we've built kind of our own custom scripts to do stuff, but like any integration to like Twilio or texting or anything like that.
Oh, look.
Yeah, I know Twilio's already in there. We actually have service hooks to and from Twilio that are inside of So if you even just go to, you don't even have to go to the marketplace. I think it's out of the box.
Oh, you mean with the notifications?
Yeah. So go down to push the gear, and then go to the service hooks.
And I'm using on-prem, so that may be different.
Okay. So what version on-prem?
2017.
2017. No, I think you're going to see some of this stuff. Gopi's in here. Gopi, did you leave? Oh man, Gopi owns RM. But Trilio, I think, is in here. Is it right
Yeah,
there?
services. Yeah, go to the services. Sorry, don't.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there. You see Trilio was in there. Scroll down. I saw it.
Trello?
Trello. Is that what you're talking about, right?
Twilio.
Oh,
Twilio.
Twilio. Oh.
That would be Zapier.
Twilio, I don't know whether we have
Twilio,
it.
we might not have that. If now, we'd have to go look in the marketplace. But the
Actually-
marketplace can extend a lot of this stuff for you. Now, all the cool stuff that you keep writing on your own, you can package that as an extension and share it across your organization as well, and then even share it to the public if you wanted to, right? So, as you've proven then that it is obviously there. Well, look for that. You want SSMS, right?
Yeah.
All right. So you wrote that for nothing.
Yeah, I think
No, click on that. Click on that, and see if there's a download link. No, you see that download link? That'll let you install it on TFS on-prem. Oh, good. So I'm glad I clarified that. So if it has a download link for you, you can install it on-prem. If it has only install, that's only for VSTS. Great. Great.
Hi. So I'm used to like TFS on-site, right?
Yep.
But I'm in exploring this idea. Is this something similar or exactly the same available in the GovCloud world?
Oh, we do not have a stamp of VSTS in the government cloud yet. There hasn't simply been enough demand for us to go and actually put that in place.
And
However,
without it there, we can't create the demand by asking for it.
no, it's chicken and egg. I hear you. I hear you. However, TFS 2018 is freaking awesome, right? If I were to do a demo of TFS 2018, you wouldn't know if I was in VSTS or not. It's that close. It's only 3 months behind. All right, so I make fun of it because it's on-prem, but as far as a functionality perspective, it literally is only 3 months behind. So I understand from the maintenance ability, and I understand all the appeal of this. So what I will do is I'll go back to my old manager again, and I'll say I got another request, and hopefully I'll get enough of these that we'll do some real investigation. Gopi, are you aware of any government cloud coming?
So if you're doing application deployment, the application deployment to government cloud is still supported either using TFS or VSTS. So you can still deploy it. The only thing is you can't host the entire TFS or VSTS instance inside the government cloud.
I think you're answering a different question. So what Gopi is saying is that you can use government Azure as a target for VSTS to deploy into. But what you're saying is that you want VSTS stamped in a government cloud.
I would assume we're not allowed to have our code out
Yeah.
there.
They're asking a different question. Yeah, I heard your question before, and I'll take it up the chain again that we need to start thinking about that seriously. In the back.
So on the front end of the DevOps process, any plans for SAFe 4.5?
SAFe 4.5. So the question is, in our Agile planning, is SAFe 4.5 going to be supported? The best person to answer that is Aaron Bjork. And are you on Twitter? All right, tweet that at me, and I will literally add Aaron. He's very active on Twitter, and he will literally tell you exactly what the answer is. So that's what I would encourage you to do. I honestly don't know, unfortunately, but Aaron will know for sure. Okay.
Okay.
There's one down here, and then I'll come back to you in just a second. Go ahead.
Can VSTS be fairly easily used to deploy Windows solution packages to on-prem SharePoint?
On-point SharePoint. So there are 2 extensions in the marketplace for SharePoint already. I haven't used them personally myself, but again, I'm going to say, how do you deploy it today? Is it a PowerShell script? Is it?
Yeah, just PowerShell.
Okay, so that PowerShell script that you run today, we can automate the execution of that. Anything in that PowerShell script, if you don't want to run just a script, can be packaged as an extension so that you can do it yourself. But there are SharePoint extensions in the marketplace already, so I would investigate to see if these would get the job done before you ended up writing your own. But I would really go to the marketplace before, because it's surprising how much stuff pops in there. And every day, I go, just like Damien, every day I go there, there's another extension. And the last time I searched for SharePoint, there were only 2. So I would search here, and the other thing I would do is use the PowerShell task that's out of the box just to run your PowerShell for you. That way when you pass in the parameters, they'll be part of your build or your release definition, and you'll be able to change them from environment to environment without you having to type them in differently in each one of them. All right, all the way back over here.
So in Azure, there's lots of PowerShell modules. Are
Okay.
there Visual Studio or VSTS PowerShell modules for those of us that are administrating the VSTS corporately?
You're asking, is there a VSTS module for you to administer your VSTS from PowerShell?
Yes.
Yes, there is. If you go to the PowerShell gallery for me, I just renamed it from team to VS team because the PowerShell team was mad at me because I didn't use the proper noun format or whatever. Because I just called it team and I thought it was awesome. And they're like, nope, you got to change it. So type in VS team.
Oh, that's right. I remember.
So that module right there allows you to do not everything inside of the REST API, but everything from a DevOps perspective. Scroll down, you'll see all of the functions. Keep scrolling down. So that's just an idea of what you can actually do. There's a REST API behind Visual Studio Team Services that exposes everything that you could possibly do in VSTS. And what we've been doing, and the community's already been contributing to this, is we're grabbing each REST API and just wrapping it in PowerShell for you so that you can do this from the command line. So I would investigate this from the VSTS perspective.
Yeah, that's a lot easier because sometimes on those REST APIs, you have to either use basic or claims auth, depending upon which commands you're trying to do,
Absolutely.
and it gets confusing.
And also the RM extent, the RM is a little different URL than the rest of the URLs. Gopi's fault. Yeah, but we handle all that stuff for you automatically. So yeah, I would investigate here. I'm accepting pull requests on this, and it's actually being demoed here at Ignite. The PowerShell team got excited about this and had me rename it just so that they could demo it and feel safe about the names. Excellent. And there's rumors that it might actually make it into the Azure CLI, not the CLI, but the Azure Cloud Shell, right? So that's another reason I had to rename it, but absolutely. Go ahead. Hey, what's up, man?
I'm going to maybe put Damien a bit on the spot here, and maybe you can't answer. But we have TFS on-prem, and a while ago, maybe like a year ago, our team looked at Octopus Deploy or versus now release management, and they've decided to go with Octopus Deploy. But we're already using TFS, so like I feel we should just go with release management. But I have never used Octopus Deploy, so I can't really do a fair comparison. Could you tell me, like, is there something Octopus offers that release management doesn't? I don't know if you're allowed to say.
I'm going to turn my microphone off so I don't hear me pressing under my breath.
Yeah. So in that demo when I showed you the deployment groups, that used to be the answer, that Octopus Deploy deploys to on-prem servers a lot better than RM. But I just showed you RM doing that as well. So the answer is a little less clear than it used to be. Well, the only other ones that I really came up with were, I mean, that was the big one, and then the big difference is the way that environments are treated as well. So Octopus Deploy treats environments kind of as a first-class citizen. It's the environment, and these are the machines in that environment, or the targets in that environment. Whereas an environment in VSTS, in RM, is kind of, it's a bit more like a phase, or not a phase, but a, you know.
It's a different way of thinking about your deployment.
Yeah.
Right? And the reason I hired him is because he is an expert, and we want to make sure that the relationship is still good and that we have an extension that's high quality. So if you choose to go that route, that's great. I'm always going to go back to integration tags, right? If you don't always, you need best fit, not best of breed. What I mean by that is don't go use the most popular tool just because it's the most popular tool when there's another tool that fits your scenario better but might not be the most popular tool. So there's an article that I wrote called The Best of Both Worlds that talks about integration tags and best of breed and what you really should be looking at when you're building a DevOps pipeline. And it's literally a vanity pipeline. You built it out of vanity alone because it was all the popular stuff, and now some poor guys haven't integrated. The fact that you're asking that question means that you should be using release management. No, honestly, you hear what I'm saying? The fact that he wants me to justify why I should use a third-party tool. If release management works, why are you talking about using a third-party tool? That would be my answer, right? If it works for you, then use it. And the deployment groups basically gives you the same thing that the tentacles do. But again, the way that they treat environments is different.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to reconcile. Is the way that we use environments going to fit your own organization? If not, then we need to do another. Guys, we're way over time. I'm so sorry. So if you want to ask us some more questions, we'll be outside. Thank you so much, guys.